Welcome to Roughing It with Ruth, the channel where everything is a bit rough around the edges. The thing that seems to flummox people the most is topographic maps, which are the maps that have the little brown contour lines on them. In this video, we're going to go over really easy basic principles for reading a map of any kind, but mostly a topographic map. People often seem to be really intimidated by map reading and navigation in general. And I think part of the reason for this is that people often pull out their maps only in a really negative situation, like when they're actually lost. One of the best ways to get over this particular fear is to just make it a habit to read maps a little bit more often when you're in a really good mood. So when you do know where you are, take out your map, take a look at the map, take a look at the terrain, identify where you are, and that way you can sort of test yourself and see whether your map reading skills are agreeing with what you know. It's also a really good idea to make it a habit to notice maps at trailheads. So even if you aren't given or buy a paper map of the area that you're in, you can at least study the map at the trailhead and perhaps take a picture of it with your phone so that you have something concrete with you to refer back to as you hike. Another really good practice is never to pull out your map when you are in a bit of a negative headspace. So first get really calm, sit down, have some water, have a snack, make yourself feel okay about life again, and then take out your map and study it. If you're already panicking, then taking out a map which you are struggling to decipher is going to make things much worse. It's a really good idea to get everybody in your hiking group involved. No matter how inexperienced they are at hiking or backpacking, it is never too early to start being able to read maps. And the more input that you have when you're looking at the map, the better your chances are of actually correctly identifying where you are and where the map should be oriented. If you are taking a look at a map in a group and you don't understand something or you disagree with the conclusions that are being drawn, then speak up. You don't have to do this in an argumentative way. In fact, that would probably be really counterproductive to the entire exercise. But don't just sit there disagreeing silently with what's going on. People often have different names for different kinds of landmarks. So some people may talk about things like a butte or a spur or a plateau, and not everyone will call the same land features the same thing. So just be aware when you are discussing navigation in a group that using the simplest language possible is probably best. And if you don't understand exactly what someone is referring to, then get them to clarify the item that they're talking about. So once you are actually looking at your map, it's important to identify what kind of map you're looking at. It could be a topographic map, which has those little brown contour lines everywhere and a whole bunch of other features indicated on it. It could be a hand-drawn map that is made by the owners of the trail that you're on. It could be a satellite image. It could be a satellite image with hand drawing added to it. It could be a paper copy of the map, in which case you're going to have to think about things like protecting it from rain. Or it could be a digital copy of the map that you're looking at, in which case you're going to have to think about things like the battery life of whatever device that you're looking at it on. Once you've identified what kind of map you're looking at, the next thing that you want to take note of is what the scale is. This will usually be printed on some part of the map, with the exception of hand-drawn maps, which do not always include a scale. 1:1 is actual size. A drawing of this cell phone would be exactly the same size as the cell phone. Maps obviously are not going to be at a scale of 1:1. It'll probably be something like 1 to 50,000, 1 to 25,000, and all that means is that 1 unit on the map equals 25,000 of those units in real life, or 50,000 of those units in real life. If you are looking at a hand-drawn map, then you should always keep in mind that the scale of things might not be realistic. Hand-drawn maps are notorious for not being to scale, so don't take what you see on a hand-drawn map as gospel, because it might not actually be entirely accurate. So what are those little brown contour lines? They're simply a representation of what the land looks like. They link areas of equal height above sea level. So essentially, what those contour lines are trying to do is make a wire depiction of what the landscape looks like and then compress it flat onto a two-dimensional surface so that you can have a look at it from the top. A lot of topographic maps these days add shading as well to try and make it a bit easier for you to visualize valleys and peaks. But even if your topographic map does not have shading, it's pretty easy to figure out the lay of the land just by looking at the contour lines. A really good rule of thumb to remember is that contour lines are spaced further apart on flatter sections of terrain and closer together on steeper sections of terrain. So on sections of terrain where there's a sheer cliff, the contour lines will actually run together and intersect at the cliff face. So you can see here where it says Nguza Pass on this topographic map. The contour lines run extremely close together, which tells you that those side walls of that valley are extremely, extremely steep. And here you can see that the contour lines are extremely close together, which indicates that the terrain is really steep. And in some places they actually run together into one big blob, which indicates that there are cliffs in that area. Another really good feature to have a look for in topographic maps is water, which is usually indicated in blue. Water always flows to the lowest point, so you always know that a river will be at the bottom of a valley. It won't be on the top of a peak. So what you want to do when you take out your map is to try to match the map to the terrain that you're actually standing in. And you do this by trying to identify a couple of key features. You can look for mountains, hills, ridges, rivers, dams. You can also look for man-made structures, which are almost always indicated on topographic maps, such as roads or buildings or power lines even. If you're not sure exactly what those structures are going to look like on the map, then you can have a look at the map's key, which should be found somewhere on the map itself. And that should tell you what the little pictograms on the map actually mean. It's really important to remember that the map is taken as a bird's eye view, so as if you were flying in a plane above the landscape looking straight down. But what you are looking at in reality is a horizontal view, so you're staring out at the terrain from a completely different perspective. This can make things that are actually really far away seem much closer than they are in reality. It can also mean that structures that look really obvious on the paper map are actually not visible to you standing on the ground because they're blocked by other structures. Once you've matched a couple of key structures on the map to structures that you can see in reality, then you can orient your map to the terrain that you're standing in. So try to hold it matching up with the direction where the mountains are or the lake is or whatever it is that you've identified on the map. If you can't find any identifiable features on the map to match up, then don't panic. Try backtracking the way that you came for a couple of minutes and then trying again, because from a different perspective, you might be able to see around objects that were previously blocking your view. Another really important thing to remember is that maps are a snapshot in time of the terrain. So for instance, the Slingsby maps that are made of the Drakensberg Mountains haven't been updated in many, many years, and the terrain has changed quite significantly. So if there is a road indicated on your map that is not there, or if there's a road in reality that is not indicated on your map, just remember that depending on when the map was made, things might have changed fairly significantly. If you are unable to locate yourself on the map and you're starting to get a bit panicky because you think you may be lost, rather take a break, sit down, do something else, even just play on your phone for a while, anything to just relax and distract you for a little while, and then try again later. Another good idea is to try to write down or record on your phone anything that you can remember passing as you were hiking. So think about the trip that you took in. Did you have to jump over a river? Did you have to cross a bridge? Did you see any buildings or roads or power lines as you were walking? And in writing this down, not only will you make it easier for you to identify where you are on your own map, but if you truly cannot find yourself on your map and you need to backtrack again, you will have just reminded yourself of your route, which will be really helpful for not getting lost on the way back. Maps are really your friend, and they are great tools for navigation, and they can help you out so much. There's absolutely no reason to be scared of trying to read them. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will become with maps in general, and the more confident you'll become in your own navigation skills. If you've got any tips for how you make your own life easier when you're reading maps, then please leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching this video, then you can click on my channel name to see videos that I've made in the past, or you can subscribe to my channel to see videos that I'm going to make in the future. Just a quick heads up about videos that I'm going to make in the future. Next week, there's almost certainly not going to be a video because I am going to be away on a backpacking trip in the Drakensberg Mountains. So there might be a 1 week gap between this video and my next video.